Good morning. I am Heather Westerfield, Chair of the Commission on School Accreditation. This regularly scheduled meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation is being held today, Thursday, April 4th, 2019 at 41:05. An audio recording is being made of this meeting, and minutes of this meeting will be recorded, and this meeting is also being live streamed. As I call the names of the Commission members, good morning.
Morning, this is Kelly.
Morning. As I call the names of the Commission members, please state the location of your presence for this meeting. Kelly Barfield.
Present, Vicksburg, Mississippi.
John Brewer.
Present, Madison, Mississippi.
Bush. Sarah Foster.
Present, Brookhaven, Mississippi.
Ms. Foster, could you state your location again?
Brookhaven, Mississippi.
Brookhaven, thank you. Roy Gill.
Present, Gulfport, Mississippi.
Brian Harvey.
Present, 4th floor boardroom, MDE.
Ann Jones.
Present, Jackson, Mississippi.
Michael Lindsay.
Present, Gulfport, Mississippi.
Dr. Valencia Martin. Michael Miller. John Mistelis. Anthony Montgomery.
Present, Hancock Whitney Plaza, Gulfport, Mississippi.
Eddie Prather.
Present, Biloxi, Mississippi.
And Heather Westerfield, 4th floor boardroom, MDE. A quorum of the Commission is present for the purpose of conducting this meeting. This meeting is called to order at 10:03 a.m. Okay, item 2, adoption of the agenda. Commission members, you have received a copy of the agenda. At this time, I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Please identify yourself for the record.
Brian Harvey, so moved.
By Mr. Harvey.
And Joe.
Second, Schomburg.
I heard that Ms. Jones as a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, members that are present, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Members on the phone, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 3, approval of the minutes of the February 7th, 2019 meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation. Commission members,
Roy Gill. So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. We have a motion by Mr. Gill
Second, Sean Brewer.
and a second by Mr. Brewer. Is there any discussion? Okay, I've been given permission now just to do the vote as one. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Item 4, approval of the minutes of the March 7th, 2019 special called meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation. I will entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved, Sarah Foster.
Motion by Ms. Foster.
Second, and
I heard second by Ms. Jones. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 5, approval of the minutes of the March 21st, 2019 special called meeting of the Commission on School Accreditation. I will entertain a motion.
Brian Harvey, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Harvey.
Eddie Prather, second.
Second by Mr. Prather. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, item 6, approval to upgrade the accreditation status of the Pearl River County School District from probation to accredited. Dr. Malone, I believe, is going to speak on this item.
Just behind your item number 6 is the letter that we sent to the superintendent of the Pearl River School District, notifying them that they have met all of the requirements for accreditation, and so we are requesting that they be upgraded from probation back to accredited.
All right, any questions? I will entertain a motion to upgrade the accreditation status of the Pearl River County School District from probation to accredited.
Roy Gill, Montgomery, so move.
I heard a motion by Mr. Gill
Anthony Montgomery, second.
and a second by Mr. Montgomery. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, item 7.
Okay, item 7 is a request for a waiver from Process Standard 28.4, which is the student-teacher ratios for grades 5 through 12 from Chickasaw County. In the backup materials, I gave you a copy of the letter from Chickasaw County where they had a student that enrolled after the first of the year, basically after Christmas, which threw their enrollment over in that one particular class. So they're asking for a waiver for this school year for that class.
Any questions from the
So
commission?
moved, so moved.
Okay, very good. A motion by Mr. Brewer,
Second, Brian Harvey.
second by Mr. Harvey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. At this time, I'm going to recuse myself from item 8, and Mr. Prather's going to take over for just a minute.
Okay, on item 8, Heather, you left the room.
Do I need to leave the room? Okay,
Well, I guess
I'm sorry.
not.
I will leave the room.
What did Aaron say? Did she need to leave?
Yes, she's walking out right now. Give us 1 second.
Okay,
She's recused from discussion and vote.
okay. Well, most people have the item 8, the consideration of a waiver to request for Pearl Public School District Process Standard 25, individual teaching course preparation, the number limit of the Mississippi School Public Accountability Standard 2018-19 school year. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval to grant waiver to the Pearl Public School District for Process Standard 25, individual teacher course preparation limit. Please identify yourself for the record on the recommendation.
This is Ann Jones. I have a question.
Okay, Ms. Jones, Dr. Malone, you there? Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Go ahead. And I was just going to tell you
Go ahead, Dr. Malone.
the material that we sent you from the Pearl Public School is where they are requesting a waiver from Process Standard 25, which deals with the course limits for teacher preparation. And your question, Ms. Jones?
My question, first of all, is how many periods are there in a day, in a teaching day?
That's going to vary by school district depending on what type of schedule that they're on.
For this district, requesting the waiver.
It looked like 6.
But it's a 7-period day, I bet.
Yeah, the reason I asked is I was wondering if this then would have any downtime during the day, since you'll be teaching for 6 periods.
On the information I saw, it looked like she did have a planning period.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
On what I looked at that was thin, it looked like she did have a vacant period.
Yeah, that's right. I saw the same in the middle of the day period.
Yeah, per day.
And this request is for her to be able to teach 6 courses as opposed to the 4, is that correct?
That's
Okay. And based on what I'm reading here, it looks like she is certified and able to do such. And so is this because they have a shortage of teachers in this particular school for this subject?
That is correct. It is a specialty subject, and the teacher has indicated her willingness to teach that extra class.
Okay. This is Anthony Montgomery. I make a motion that we approve this request.
Sarah Foster, second.
Okay, it's been motion by Mr. Montgomery to approve the request and second by Ms. Foster. Is there any discussion?
Yes, this is Ann Jones again. Now, this waiver is for the remainder of this school year only, or will this extend to the next school year?
This year only.
Okay.
Any other questions for discussion? If not, then we'll entertain a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried. So Dr. Malone, you can ask Heather to come back in.
She's on her way.
Thanks, Mr. Fraser.
Sure, no problem.
All right, item 9 is a discussion item. We have a recommendation to revise State Board Policy Part 3, Chapter 36, Rule 36.5, additional assessment options for meeting end-of-course subject area test graduation requirements, and Appendix A5 of the Mississippi Public School Accountability Standards 2019. And we have Dr. Dana Bullard with us this morning.
Hello, this is a request that we've had because we have on our chart in testing that they could have a C or higher in college biology. There has been an issue with the fact that students would take a 3-hour biology class for this credit and then move on transitioning into college and have to take a biology lab later to make that biology count as a 4 hour, them to take that the next year when they move on to college. There's also some clarifying language in the policy to make sure that all of the different standards are in line with each other and have the same parallel structure.
So would this only be a requirement for those kids that are using this as a graduation requirement? So let's say regular, kids that have already passed their state test and are just taking dual biology, this would not apply to them.
Well, if they're taking dual credit biology, the community college usually requires that they take the lab. It's just that our language doesn't require that. And so what was happening is some schools were sending their kids for this and only taking the 3-hour class.
The colleges require them to take it, like if I'm a student at a community college, are they required to take it at the same time?
Yes, and at a 4-year college.
This was just for, if I'm understanding right, for those kids who had failed the state test and the only thing they needed was the course, not the lab. So they weren't really taking it as a dual credit course.
Right. Well, they were taking it as they weren't taking it to go out and take a dual credit course. They were taking it for a requirement. And because our guidelines didn't say you must take the lab, some places were just making them take the 3 hours. When those students transition to a college, they're asked to take a lab without the background, the lecture part of the course, in order to get a science credit as they matriculate into college.
Excuse me, I'm calling in. This is Dr. Martin from Greenwood.
Thank you.
Could you stay? Oh, she said it. Greenwood. Thank you, Dr. Martin.
Okay.
So, Dr. Bullard, if a school district, a specific school district is making this request, or is this all coming from the administration, MDE?
Sir, I think it's coming.
A school district.
They are not aware of this now. This will not be a requirement for this year. It will be a change for next year.
Okay.
For the students' sake, because that is a requirement at colleges when they take a science. Science classes are 4-hour classes that they take with a lab. Our language here was getting students to take a class for the purposes of an end of course in lieu of grade to be able to graduate from high school, but then when they transition to college, they're asked to take a 1-hour biology lab by itself. The students are, it is not a good setup for students who are already at risk.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand. Students were taking a lab to try to get credit for their
No,
No. Okay.
No, they already have the 3 hours, but to take a lab-based science in college for most graduation requirements from college, they have to have a lab-based science. The sciences are lab-based in colleges.
Right.
Right, I'm just, yes, yeah.
So
What,
in
but
1920, basically, all we're saying is that students who enroll in biology, dual credit biology at the high school level.
We need you to come to the microphone because we're live streaming.
So if they take biology in 1920, if they take biology, dual credit biology,
Any student.
Okay. Any student, they will take the 3 hours plus the lab that is required at every post-secondary institution. Because it's kind of like I'm a weak math student. If I were to take college algebra my 11th grade year, and then I get to University of Southern Miss and they go, oh, by the way, you have to do an algebra lab. I haven't had that algebra instruction for 2 years. And it's a co-requisite to the course. And by them taking a course without the lab, it's almost like the course is a prerequisite, and that's not the way it's designed. It's a co-requisite to the course.
I guess I just see as, from a teacher standpoint, rather, I'm not a principal, getting schedules together is a whole nother course that now we're going to have to offer. Whereas, before,
that's right.
The kids were just getting the 3-hour course.
Right. But in all actuality, by just getting the 3-hour course, they're not completing what is required of them. We're giving them a dual credit piece. We're not giving them the 4 hours that's required of them in post-secondary.
Let me also jump in and say, when you vote, what you will be voting for is for us to take this to the board to go out for APA.
Right.
So there'll be a almost 2-month process, or several weeks, I can't remember the exact date, but for us to be able to gather feedback from the districts on this item.
How do we know? Because I know at our school, I don't think we have offered the lab. Our school's now offering the lab. Is this that some are and some aren't? Okay.
I can't hear that discussion.
Sorry.
Heather, you want to come up here and say that? This is Heather Morrison, who has worked with community colleges for MDE.
Usually in high school, when you're building out your master schedule, there's more time in the high school schedule than that's required for the 3-hour class. So if a community college agrees to allow the biology class to be taught at the high school, the lab is built in with that block schedule time. So that's how they work around the time. And if a kid goes to the campus, they're going to sign up anyway for the 1-hour lab. So the high schools usually cover that lab time within their current schedule at the school. So I don't think it's a matter of that. Working with the chief academic officers at the community college, this has been a problem across the 15 because what they're saying is their district's saying, oh no, MDE is saying that we don't have to take the lab. So they're trying to use, because we didn't have it spelled out in the language. And so that's what's caused problems for the students that enter into post-secondary after high school.
So the students are going to come out with the 4 hours just like
right, just like as if they signed up when they graduated from high school.
This is Ann Jones. So within the time that's allotted of the course already, within that time, a lab would be a part of that time period.
That's usually how it's built out anyway. The community colleges want to ensure that there is enough time, and the high school schedules have way more time built in than what's required. So the lab is built in with this class period.
So I'm following Ms. Jones' train of thought. This is Eddie Prater. You're saying the regular biology class going to have time to build in for that lab to take place and have the required amount of time for the lab and the class?
It's not necessarily that it's built in, it's already there because the high school's seat time is more than what is required for a community college time. So if I'm teaching biology, college biology at a high school, then part of my scheduling would be ensuring that I had labs built in throughout the semester. Because we start...
again, Eddie Bray, so Dr. Malone, have we had any communication with principals that work with this every day if it's going to affect their scheduling?
I think, Mr. Prather, if the way I understand it, this is Brian Harvey, if they take the course in high school as a dual credit course, the lab is included and they're going to get 4 hours credit. All this is doing is saying that if they take it at a community college, they have to sign up for the 3-hour dual credit course and the additional 1 hour lab. What some schools were doing, or students were doing, were just signing up for the 3-hour course. Therefore, they didn't get the full 4 hour credit. So this only applies to students taking science courses on the community college campus.
So now, this is Ann Jones again. So now we're saying...
Schedules, we start 2 to almost 3 weeks ahead of time before the community colleges, and we also go well into, say if I took it fall of 2020 or fall of 19, our schedules also go well into December. And so the lab time could very easily be a part of that class.
This is Roy Gill. So making sure that I understand this correctly, the high school now that if you teach dual credit biology on the high school campus, it will represent the 4-hour lecture/lab. But if you teach it on the junior college level, you would have to take both the 3-hour lecture and the 1-hour lab separately. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Okay.
Okay.
And all, I'm sorry, this is Roy Gill again, and all of the junior colleges have agreed with this articulation agreement to format it in this manner.
This is part of their request, actually, from their last Chief Academic Officers meeting, that they were having a lot of problems across the board. Some community colleges required that if they took the course, they had to sign up for the lab immediately right then. Some were getting problems back and forth between their district over the language in our policy.
This is Ann Jones again, and I want to make certain that I understand what we're saying about the high school. So the high school already have 3 hours for this biology class, say, and you're saying that there's already time built into that 3-hour class course for lab, which means that they'll only get, that the students will get 2 hours of class and 1 hour of lab, for which they will receive 4-hour credit.
Now, what we're saying is that if you teach Biology 1 at your high school right now, there is time in your high school schedule that would meet the requirements of the 1-hour biology lab.
So you would teach 140 hours for that Carnegie credit in high school, which gives you ample time to do the 3-hour class, lecture class, and the 1-hour lab. Those 4 hours altogether from a college campus are less than the 140 hours that we require.
So you're adding another hour to the high school schedule for the lab?
No, ma'am.
I guess that was right.
No, ma'am. You have a biology class. You have about 4 or 5 extra weeks of time, essentially. I'll say 4 at the most, 2 before school, 2 after. And within that class period, I make time in my syllabus to ensure that I have a day that's a lab day. It may be 1 in August, 1 in September, 1 in throughout the semester, but whatever it takes to meet the requirements of the lab, because you have additional class seating time.
And this is Mike Lindsay. You can go for it. And we've been doing the 4-hour biology course for several years, and you can fit the 4-hour biology course inside of a semester on a block schedule, just like you would a high school class. And you can also fit it in a year-long class, just like any other class, on a 7-period day. So the high schools will not have to make any adjustments. The time is already built in. We're really doing the kids a disservice by offering them a 3-hour science class, but there's no other college. You have to stay, you always think of science as a 4-hour course. So
Right.
it needs to be offered as a 4-hour course. It's really no more extra time for the high schools. It can already be built into the schedule, so it shouldn't be a scheduling issue.
So, Eddie, so Mike, Mr. Lindsay, for counting Carnegie unit for graduation, now will we give kids 4 credit for a science or 3 credit for science?
Well, they're going to get 4 hours at the college. For the high school, it's going to be 1 credit, 1 science credit.
I'm talking about from graduating high school. Like some schools, I require 24 credit or 26 credit. Is this adding that 1 hour lab going to increase that credit?
No, sir. They still get 1 credit. They still get 1 Carnegie unit from the high school.
Okay.
But 4 hours just includes the lab, and that's a college requirement for the amount of seat time that they require. So,
okay.
But the kids will still get 1 credit from the high school.
Credit. Okay.
All right, this is Roy Gill, and I hate to even bring it up, but it needs to be looked at. If they take it off campus at a wherever and they transfer it back in as a course, how will that be addressed in the accountability model for a dual credit course?
It's one 3-hour class is 1 Carnegie unit by state statute. So that's all that it would be accounted for is a one 3-hour dual credit course.
Okay, so that there needs to that 1 hour lab that they take.
It doesn't count. It doesn't meet the definition of
the requirements for the dual credit. Okay.
Yes.
All right, any other questions?
So, Dr. Malone, you say this is we're making a recommendation for it to go out to the APA process?
Yes, Mr. Prather, that's the next item.
We get some of that feedback, see what has been said. I think we did that at one time.
We have had instances in the past where you have asked to see the feedback, but as far as what the actual process normally is that it will go to the board next week for their approval to start the APA process. Then it would stay within the board's purview as to whether or not it's adopted for final approval.
Okay.
This is Ann Jones again. I just want to ensure that if this passes, that there is a process in place to educate students and parents and about what's going on with the course and the need for the students to take the lab.
They're all shaking their head, yes, Miss Jones.
Yes, ma'am. Policy change is for the best of the kids. It's something that needed to be done to make sure that they are getting what they need for when they get to college and transition.
I understand all that. I just want to be sure that they are fully informed and understand what is needed and what this will mean for them as they go to college.
Ma'am. All right, item 10. Consideration of recommendation to submit request to the State Board of Education to begin the Administrative Procedures Act process to revise the State Board Policy Part 3, Chapter 36, Rule 36.5, additional assessment options for meeting end-of-course assessment graduation requirements, and Appendix A5 of the Mississippi Public School Accountability Standards 2019. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Mike Lindsay, so moved.
Okay, hang on just a second, everyone. Sorry about that. We're just making sure we had that number correct. I'm sorry. Once again, let me have a motion for approval, please. Mr. Lindsay, did you make that motion? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so we had a motion by Mr. Lindsay. Do I have a second?
Second, Brian Harvey.
A second by Mr. Harvey.
All right. I'm sorry, this is Roy Gill. I have one more question. Is this just the biology, or is this the history also? Change. There's a change in the U.S. history?
It is a last month, or in February, when y'all looked at the history, you changed that. We went through APA to talk about the dual credit for history. American History 2 is going through that process. So what that was is a spot, one more spot in all of these manuals that had American history in it that needed to match what y'all passed in February. That was something that we didn't realize it was on this chart. And so we're doing it to make sure that it matches everything that y'all passed in February.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? Okay, very good. All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, item 11, recommendation of a temporary rule and to begin the Administrative Procedures Act process to establish State Board Policy Part 3, Chapter 36, Rule 36.6, optional graduation requirements for students displaced by a federally or nationally declared natural disaster.
Yes, my name is on the agenda because I wasn't quite sure if Mr. Ransburg would be available to discuss this item. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Ransburg so that he can explain why we're bringing this to the commission today.
Good morning. We're bringing this item forward to the commission because we had kids that came to Mississippi that were displaced because of national or disasters, in Puerto Rico, the hurricanes in Texas, Hurricane Maria. And so these kids have come to us from various places because of these national disasters, or natural disasters, I'm sorry. And they're unable to meet the Mississippi graduation requirements, all of them. Some of them were able to meet the Mississippi graduation requirements, but some of them were not. ESSA requires the states to review barriers for homeless or displaced students and remove barriers to those kids that exist in policy to prevent them from being successful. So when this was escalated to the department, we sat down as a group and we began to look at the graduation requirements for their home state, country, or territory. In many instances, these kids meet the graduation requirements, or they do meet the graduation requirements from their home state or their home territory or their home country. So this policy is proposing is coming forward for approval or consideration for approval to give districts the opportunity to work with that student's home, state, territory, or country to ensure that they've met the graduation requirements there and to allow those students to graduate here with another option based on those requirements from their home, state, country, or territory. Once they come to us in their junior or senior year, often it's too late for those kids to meet all of our requirements if they've been on another track. So this would provide another option for those kids to graduate and move on to college.
Very much. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I'll just say that in some cases that could be a very tough task to accomplish. To actually clearly get communication from wherever the previous location was on what graduation requirements exist, etc.
So, Eddie Prater, what will they receive a diploma from the school they graduated from or from their home country?
So this would give the Mississippi School District the option to provide to them a diploma from Mississippi based on their home state, country, or territory's graduation requirements.
So again, wouldn't that require each school district to alter their policies, or if they have criteria for them, wouldn't that need to go back to the local district as well?
It would give the local district the flexibility to do so.
And then, this is Ann Jones. In cases where you're not able to verify the qualifications for graduations for those juniors and seniors who are displaced, what is the alternative?
So we've encouraged districts to work with the Department of Education or the governing authority for education in their home state, country, or territory in an effort to work through those issues or get clarification on what those requirements are for those students.
And this is just going out for APA process right now. Any other discussion?
This is Roy Gill. I just, I understand the premise behind it, but if that's going to be left up to the LEAs to determine each requirement, I think that just leads to some issues that we may have on clarity.
Can you explain, please, sir?
In other words, unless right now we know that what the requirements are for anybody to get a Mississippi diploma. Okay? All right, when we start opening up the doors to allowing the local school districts to pair or to try to speak with the home school or country, like Mr. Brewer said, that is a daunting task to even get information from those, for example, Guatemala or those Honduras, those countries that natural disasters have occurred, and those hold total different requirements than I think that opens the door to interpretation a lot of times. I just have reservations on that.
Yes, it's very complicated, and it's very tough, sad situation. But it's also extremely complicated to try to make a competent decision based in any facts or reality, other than just kind of making it up.
They're having to go through their records or lack thereof to try to figure out what they have had, their placement, etc. So to some degree, this is actually already happening.
Or any other discussion?
I to have feedback from principals and school districts.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And then we'll come back to us.
No, ma'am, it'll go directly back to the board.
It'll go directly back to the board. Because I too have some reservations on the difficult. I agree with the principle of it because we don't want to stymie any students. I'm just having reservations about the process and about the additional work that we're putting on school districts to establish communications with education departments from other countries when that proved very difficult and sometimes impossible.
So we have a responsibility once those kids enter into a Mississippi school, as Dr. Malone shared, to try to place these kids accordingly based on the coursework that they've completed. So there is some level of communication with a home school or with a home district or with someone to help schools place these kids. Absent approval of this rule, we have a cadre of students that are ready for graduation, but they won't be able to move forward with graduation because there's no way for them to meet these Mississippi requirements by the time they're supposed to complete. For example, I'll use the kids from Puerto Rico. When you begin to look at the requirements in Puerto Rico, for example, they require a certain number of English courses or a certain number of math courses, not specifically algebra or not specifically biology for science. So here we are where kids have matriculated through this process, and they certainly didn't require them to take U.S. history, and a kid is on the cusp of where he's tried to take the course, or a kid maybe has tried to take the course, a kid has tried to take the assessment and has been unsuccessful, but that hadn't been the trajectory that he's been placed on in his home country. So he's forced to live here, or she's forced to live here in the United States, here in one of our school districts in Mississippi, where they're matriculating through these courses, and there's not another option for this kid to be successful and to move forward. So they're caught in this pipeline where we don't have another option for them.
But we're also held accountable for the English proficiency. So, I mean, you're looking at one thing, you're holding us accountable, the school district's accountable for English proficiency, but not necessarily some of the coursework.
Yeah, with that in mind, I mean, I support the recommendation in principle, but we letting kids, allow students to exit high school, and with this kid in mind going to community college or senior college, and they was on a step those credits. So they have hit a brick wall. I guess that wouldn't be our concern. So how will we address that?
So I'm not certain how we address if a kid wants to enroll in a Mississippi university or a Mississippi college. I'm not sure what the articulation agreement would even be with another country, or with how they transfer courses from other countries. So I can't speak to that with any authority. However, I know that we do have kids that come in from other countries that enroll in colleges that have not gone on the path that Mississippi has gone on. So what this rule is saying, we're not asking you or asking districts to necessarily make up anything. We're asking them to look at what's been required for those kids to complete in their home state, country, or territory, and hold them accountable for meeting those requirements. And so what we're wanting to give, these kids an opportunity to be successful in the next phase of their career, whether it's college or their career, because we want them to complete the process.
Let me also state, this is not for just any family that just decides that they want to move to Mississippi. I mean, this is strictly, we're talking about the students that are coming in as juniors and seniors who have been displaced by a natural disaster, not just any student transferring in from another state, territory, or country.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree in principle with what you're proposing. But however, these will be receiving a diploma from the state of Mississippi, and that diploma in itself implies that they have met all the requirements of the state of Mississippi. When in essence, what I'm hearing is They have not. And that's what I'm having some concerns with.
So this process gives Mississippi school districts the authority to present a diploma to the student based on the requirements from their home state, territory, or country. So I don't know that the verbiage needs to be changed on the diploma. I'm not sure how to address that concern, but this approval of this rule would give districts the authority to provide that diploma to those kids to allow them to move forward.
And this is just for natural disasters. Does it cover war or anything like that?
So the current policy does not. We are currently faced with the kids that have moved in as a result of these natural disasters.
Would this be retroactive, or would it be for entering students going forth?
It would apply immediately for this school year for the ones that are currently juniors and seniors.
Any other questions? All right, item 12, the consideration of recommendation to submit request to the State Board of Education for a temporary rule and to begin the Administrative Procedures Act process to establish State Board Policy Part 3, Chapter 36, Rule 36.6, optional graduation requirements for students displaced by a federally or nationally declared natural disaster. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Brian Harvey, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Harvey.
Second, Mike Lindsay.
Second by Mr. Lindsay. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay. Roy Gill.
All right, the motion carries. All right, item 13, update on comments received in Schools of Innovation.
So this is just a reminder before I let Dr. Bullard speak. At the last meeting, you all approved for this particular item to go out for APA, but you just requested that we give you an update on the comments that were received. So we've asked Dr. Bullard to give you an update on where we are with the comments on that particular item.
On this item, we have only gotten one comment so far. The APA has been extended until April the 11th or 12th. I don't have that in front of me. I'm sorry about that. But I've had discussion with several districts about questions they have about it. So I foresee that there will be comments. But so far, the only comment was from Gulfport, and they are in support of this policy. Those are all the comments we have.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Dr. Bullard. All right, item 14, other business.
The only other thing I was just going to remind everyone of when the next meeting is, and that is June the 6th, I believe. And at that meeting, we will set the calendar of meetings for the next school year, and we'll need to re-elect officers at that time.
What was that date again?
June the 6th. Mr. Prather, I do believe that this is your last meeting, that your term will be up, so to say, before our next one. So I just wanted to thank you for your service. Am I correct on that?
I'll have to check to see if June counts or not.
I'll wait for Dr. Malone to let me know.
Do what now?
I was waiting for Dr. Malone to let me know. I did get reappointed to the board, Dr. Malone.
Oh, he was reappointed to their local school board. Okay. So that means
Right.
he qualifies for a second term. So we'll have to double check.
Okay. Then we'll halt on that then. Thank you anyway, Mr. Prather.
Okay.
All right, so item 15, adjournment. I will entertain a motion.
Brian Harvey, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Harvey.
Roy Gill, so moved.
Second by Mr. Gill. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned at 10:54.
All right. Thank y'all.
Y'all have